It all started when I decided to take a day off from work and treat myself to a day at the beach. I had been working hard for weeks and felt like I deserved a little break. I packed a bag with all the essentials, grabbed my book, and headed out the door. I arrived at the beach and set up my umbrella, put my towel down, and got comfortable. I started reading my book and lost track of time. It wasn't until I heard a voice yelling that I realized something was going on. I looked up and saw a woman with a young child walking towards me. The woman was wearing a pink swimsuit, had a short blonde bob, and was carrying a large beach bag that was overflowing with items. She looked like she had spent too much time in the sun. Her skin was red and peeling. She was screaming about how I was in her spot and that I needed to move. I was a bit taken aback, as there were plenty of open spots on the beach. I tried to reason with her, but she was having none of it. "Excuse me, ma'am, but I don't see your name on this spot," I said, trying to keep my cool. "Well, I always sit here." "You need to move," she replied, getting more agitated by the second. I tried to explain to her that I had just arrived and didn't see her there, but she wasn't having any of it. She started to raise her voice, causing a bit of a scene on the beach. "Look, I don't want any trouble. There are plenty of open spots here. Just find another one," I said, trying to defuse the situation. But she wasn't having it. She started to become physically aggressive, trying to push me out of the spot. I stood my ground, not willing to be bullied by her. "I'm not going to move just because you say so. You can find another spot," I said, now getting a bit annoyed. "You think you can just come here and take my spot? Who do you think you are?" she screamed. At that point, the lifeguard showed up. He had heard the commotion and had come over to see what was going on. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, looking between the two of us. "This woman is trying to take my spot and is becoming physically aggressive," I explained. The woman turned to the lifeguard and started yelling at him. "Do something about this! She's in my spot and she won't move!" The lifeguard turned to the woman and asked her to calm down, but she wasn't having any of it. She started to become even more aggressive, attempting to grab my towel and pull it out from under me. I stood up and tried to reason with her, but it was no use. She was determined to have her way. It was at that moment that the lifeguard decided to call the police. Within minutes, a police officer showed up and started to assess the situation. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked, looking between the three of us. "This woman is trying to take my spot and is becoming physically aggressive," I explained. Once again, the woman started to become even more agitated, yelling at the police officer and trying to hit me once again. The police officer took one look at her and knew he had a situation on his hands. She was clearly out of control and needed to be removed from the beach. "Ma'am, you need to calm down, or we will be forced to remove you from the beach," the police officer said stern. The woman continued to scream at the officer, insisting that she was in the right and that I needed to move. She was now pushing the officer, trying to get to me. The officer tried to reason with her, telling her that she needed to calm down and that she was breaking the law by becoming physically aggressive. But the woman wasn't having any of it. She continued to push and scream, causing a scene on the beach. The officer had no choice but to arrest her. He placed the woman in handcuffs and started to lead her away. "You can't do this to me. I demand to be released. I want to dress and not be taken in my swimsuit," she yelled. But the officer was not sympathetic. He knew that the woman needed to be removed from the beach and that she was breaking the law by becoming physically aggressive. "You are under arrest for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest," the officer said as he led the woman away. As the woman was being led away, she continued to scream and yell, insisting that she was in the right. But it was clear to everyone on the beach that she was the one in the wrong. As they walked by me, I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. The woman had caused such a scene and was now being escorted off the beach in handcuffs. I spent the rest of the day at the beach, enjoying the sun, the waves, and a cold beer. It was the perfect way to unwind and relax after a long week of work. I never thought I'd encounter an entitled person like this outside of my workplace like I always do. But here I am, standing in a crowded shopping mall, dealing with a grown woman throwing a tantrum because she couldn't get her way. Let me give you a bit of backstory. I'm a 25-year-old college student and I work part-time at a local pet store to make ends meet. I love animals, and working there has been a great way to learn more about them while also earning a paycheck. Today, I was on my day off and decided to hit the mall to do some shopping. As I was walking through the mall, I noticed a commotion near a clothing store. A woman was yelling at a sales associate, demanding a refund for a dress she had bought a week ago. The sales associate was trying her best to explain the store's return policy, but the woman wasn't having it. "I want my money back now. This dress is garbage, and I'm not leaving until I get a refund," the woman screamed. I rolled my eyes and continued walking, but the woman must have noticed me because she turned her attention to me. "Excuse me, you there. Can you believe this store won't give me my money back for this awful dress?" she asked me, holding up the offending garment. I sighed and stopped walking. "Ma'am, I don't work here. I can't help you with your refund," I explained, hoping she would leave me alone. But of course she didn't. "Well, you're wearing clothes, so you must know something about fashion. Tell me, does this dress look good on me?" she demanded, thrusting the dress in my face. I took a step back, trying to get some distance from the crazy lady. "Ah, sure. It looks great," I said sarcastically, hoping to end the conversation. But no such luck. The woman huffed and started pacing back and forth. "No, it doesn't. It looks terrible, and I demand a refund. I'll go to the police if I have to." At this point, a security guard had arrived and was trying to defuse the situation. But the woman was having none of it. She started yelling at the guard, accusing him of being in cahoots with the store and refusing to help her. That's when things got really crazy. The woman lunged at the guard, trying to hit him. He quickly restrained her, but she continued to struggle and scream. People were staring, and some were even filming the scene on their phones. Finally, the police arrived, and they took the woman away in handcuffs. As she was led away, still shouting and making a scene, I couldn't help but feel grateful that I wasn't working at the pet store that day. Dealing with entitled customers is bad enough, but dealing with them on your day off is just torture. In the end, I managed to do my shopping and got some good deals. But I'll never forget the entitled woman who ruined my day off. So this weekend was pure entertainment. I love living in a close-knit town where we have community events all the time. Some are random like this one. We got together and volunteered our kids to clean the parks and trail day through trash in. While they were cleaning, I joined a couple of parents and we cleared some half-fallen trees so they wouldn't be a hazard anymore. Park Service were there and the town code enforcer showed up in uniform with his kids. This is very important. He, of course, came in uniform because he is running for office forever. He led the kids around the park picking up trash, sweeping debris, and racking up leaves. So as we were clearing the debris along the trail by Karen's house, a police officer comes by, led by Karen's weasel of a husband. Let's call him Kevin. Karen was locked up, and I guess he figured he had to do her work. He apparently called them and wanted them to see the hoodlums with weapons on the trail and the men destroying the forest. The police officer wrote him a ticket for filing a false police report and left telling him to not call again. A few hours later, the code enforcer came down the trail with a group of kids picking up trash and he saw the condition of Karen's fence. He told the kids he wanted it all picked up and they got to work. Kevin came out in a huff. He screamed that they need to get off his property. I saw a few parents getting ready to tell him off when the code enforcer bellowed, "You heard him, kids, get out of there." He then walked up to Kevin with the biggest grin I ever seen in my life. He pulled out his summons book and started writing. The conversation went as follows. Code enforcer, you have 1 week to clean this up as you are in violation of our town's Clean and Pristine Act. Kevin looked pissed, staring blankly. Code enforcer, this is your fence, isn't it? Kevin, yes, but those little demons are the ones who dropped that trash there. Code enforcer, well, those kids were cleaning it up, but you don't want them on your property. I cannot allow them to trespass. As you see, I am on duty today. And since I am on duty, I must enforce the clean and pertinent order. Now, if you wish to give them permission to be on your property, they will clean up the trash, or you can do it yourself. Kevin, Let the little bastards clean it. Duck you. I stood there laughing with the dads as I cannot describe the level of confusion on Kevin's face during the entire exchange. The code enforcer stood there with the biggest grin I have ever seen as Kevin stormed off to his house. One of the moms piped up, "I thought you said you weren't actually working today." The code enforcer grinned. I couldn't pass up an opportunity to shut that guy down hard. We all laughed and got back to cleaning. The kids picked up all the trash on his property. We saw Kevin a few more times, mostly to come out curse about how terrible the kids are. Kevin got into an argument with one of the moms, but my daughter didn't hear what they said and I was at the other end of the trail. When it was all done, we had a big barbecue party to celebrate the clean park and to reward the kids for their hard work. Too bad Kevin is such a sorpus, we would have invited him. Side note, most of the kids confessed to throwing the trash on Karen's property. My daughter confessed to it as well as apologizing for contributing to the mess. Most of the kids weren't willing participants, but a few threats of lost video games and TV privileges sure do work wonders. My friend and I were doing a 9-hour-long road trip. I have absolutely no idea what we did to offend Karen, but somehow we invoked her wrath. Karen looked to be in her mid-50s, dyed hair, fancy car. She started chasing us on the freeway for about 20 minutes, coming up next to us, waving her hands and yelling as if we could hear her, trying to cut us off and brake check us, flipping the bird, and so on. I was in the passenger seat, not driving, so my actions were not dangerous. I noticed during one of the brake checks that she had Christian bumper stickers and the fish on her car. I'm a huge nerd, and I always have gaming supplies with me. We were heading to a concert, but planned to overnight at a friend's house who was also a nerd, so I had paper and pens and all that with me. I used a thick black marker and huge letters that filled the whole paper, wrote a note, and held it up in the window for her to read next time she got on my side of the car. When she read it, her face turned all sorts of shades of purple and she backed off, disappearing into traffic, never to be seen again. What did I write? 3 simple words. Jesus loves you. Acting like more of a Christian than her was enough to break her. What would Jesus do? Certainly not try to cause a crash. Best part, I'm not even Christian. So this takes place before I was born. The story involves my mom, my uncle, and their old man. And yes, I do not call him my granddad because he doesn't deserve it. So my mom is the oldest out of her siblings. My uncle, if I remember correctly, is the second oldest. Well, family life was not that pretty for my mom and left when she was 16. Their old man was a bitter, violent, stubborn man and pretty much cut my mother out of his will. Whatever, she didn't need his money. Well, soon enough, the old man dies, leaving money to all the kids except for my mom, with my uncle getting the big piece of that pie. My grandmother asked my uncle to give some money to Mum since by that time, my 2 oldest siblings were already born. My uncle did not. In fact, he did something worse. You see, there's something you should know. My uncle, a religious man, yes, I meant to put that in quotations, has the same name as the old man, and somehow got the will and changed it so that he got all of it, leaving none for the rest. So yeah, where does karma come in? Well, as the story goes, within 2 weeks of getting the money, my uncle met a woman who had learned about his gain in the bank account. So she began to sweet-talk him, telling him about how he could easily not just double but triple his money. Yep, she was a scammer and my uncle took the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. She not only took the money he got from his old man, but all of it, every last cent in his account. So, in summary, my uncle stole an inheritance that was meant to spread across the family to only lose it and the rest of his money to a scammer. My mother guessed the money he lost to be in the 1,000 mark, maybe more. I guess he really should have read that part about reap what you sow. For me, karma works sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but it always gets its due.